Going to start off today with Carney and Trump visiting the White House, and we'll check on some of the. There's comments about 20 minutes of reporters talking afterwards and asking questions. So definitely want to hear that as well. Yes. All right. So we'll start off with Donald Trump's Truth Social. Trump says it was a great honor welcoming Prime Minister Mark Carney to the White House today. It's both them smiling, thumbs up. Now that we have them beside each other, just curious, what's Mark Carney's height? Trump had a medical recently that said he was 6'3". Does it say his height? What's his height? It's a weird thing to know for a politician. I don't see it on there. That's fine. Looking at the two of them, I highly doubt either one of them is above 6 feet. I did go to the liberal meeting when it was in Saskatoon a couple weeks ago. Mark Carney was not way above me. I'm 6'1", so I don't think either of them 6 feet. Hey, they say it's a great honor. Thumbs up. And I want to check in on the White House Twitter. They say it's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. A few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think Canada chose a very talented person. That's by President Trump. Here's the two of them sitting in front of an airplane. I'd like to know the significance of that airplane. What is that? White House office. I think it's the Oval Office, right? Oval Office. Airplane sculpture model. Okay, there we go. This is a model of the redesigned Air Force One. It's pictured in the Oval Office has been spotted in Mar-a-Lago. So it's got to be it's got to be Air Force One there. It does look like it. It says, thank you to President Trump. So the White House reposted Mark Carney. It says, thank you to President Trump for inviting me to the White House. Our meeting today marks the beginning of a new relationship between Canada and the United States, based on respect, built on common interests, and to the transformational benefit of both our nations. Well, all right. So Mark Carney and the White House and Trump are all saying very positive things and giving a thumbs up. It's it's bizarre compared to the last few weeks. I mean, Carney's entire election was against Trump. It was anything but Trump. No Trump. And Trump's just been disrespecting Canada and talking about taking it over. So they're all smiles in person. Got two links to the same meeting. This one's from the White House on YouTube. It's 33 minutes, 11 seconds. The color looks great. Whatever cameras they used are really good. Same meeting, 33 minutes, 14 seconds by CPAC, and it looks very grainy and dull. So I'm going to play the White House's version. Let's hear how the meeting went. Oh. What? He's actually saying someone else is better than him. Surprising. Oh, yeah, now I can see. It's Air Force One, that plane. Fine. Really straying from the topic of Canada there. Focus, Trump. It's not about beautiful ships. There we go. So Rubio is very much in favor of 51st state. The other one there was Howard Lutnick. Called Canada a socialist regime. Yeah, that was in the news a few days ago. That's who's in the room with Carney. Interesting way to start. Fentanyl in the Arctic. Hyperbole. No, because he doesn't follow the own he doesn't follow it. He created it and doesn't follow it. Still 51st comments. What's his angle? He goes between 51st State and Friendship. Okay, yeah, address that. Military free. The most expensive military in the world, the United States. No. There's the prime minister's look. Carney's no, he's not agreeing. There we go. So talking about Canada's military expansion, they've immediately just this is yesterday. They've been looking into buying submarines from South Korea. I believe there it is. To sell Canada 12 of the latest submarines. So, yeah, for expanding into the Arctic and patrolling more, yeah, Canada's looking at buying subs. The United States is not Canada's protector, although an important military ally. He's not talking about electricity, natural resources, fossil fuels. Natural resources. Yes, there are a lot. Ships pulling a U-turn. Well, US citizens aren't getting the goods and services that they usually do, or they're paying a lot more for it. The average person is definitely noticing. China absolutely does, doing just fine. Here we go, from the United States. Trade with China was at 582 billion, and they sold 143.5 billion. So, yeah, they buy a lot more from China than China buys from them. Talking about one. Four. That's it. Billion. This is messy. I smell it. I can see talking about China. It's a lot of gambling, but he understands that trade with another country is like shopping, and yet he'll falsely call it a subsidy. Those reporters. With these, this has nothing to do with Canada. Refocus. It'll be on a signal chat. Talking about Christia Freeland. No, you signed the deal. You agreed to that relationship. Hmm. It's, 12 point something percent, 12.8%, I think, of US economy is trade with Canada. Somewhat. Korean subs now. Speaking of submarines, not buying US. Just to pause, but Trump was actually in charge of pulling out of Afghanistan, so that's to say it's very incompetent people is bizarre, but par for the course for him. This guy. ISIS was not defeated in 5 weeks. AI. What real estate financing is he doing with AI? I mean, I don't know Obama's quote, but that doesn't sound like him. I've never heard him rambling on about DI and woke. He loves construction workers. Is a billionaire. Yes, he's just like the construction workers. Some nonsense about California. President Trump took shots at former President Obama about his Chicago library, blaming woke construction workers. Just limousine service? Yeah, doubtful. Work is continuing to close the exterior of the building and install glass and granite finishing, install windows. Foundation said insulation has also been installed. Center's website touts the use of union labor, privately funded, no taxpayer dollars. Don't know about woke. It's a train in California. Specifics. USMC was his deal, and he's applying tariffs to Canada. He should absolutely know what he wants from trade. He should have some clear objectives. Just you just didn't tariff them anymore. Not giving them a chance. Just no longer penalizing. Correct. Windsor and Detroit. Carney's right to the point. Talking about Zelensky. Did he even wear a suit? Did he even say thank you? If that were true, they wouldn't put tariffs on them. Don't need tariffs for something you're not gonna buy, right? So, obviously, if you're buying it, you need it. Yeah. There's that subsidy word. And yet earlier on in this conversation, he talked about shopping. So he does understand it's a consumer, transactional business relationship. And he says subsidy. De Detroit and Windsor, car parts go between the 2. It's the big 3 manufacturers in Detroit would suffer greatly if Canada wasn't producing the car parts. They need each other. Trump needs to educate himself. There's this nonsense number, subsidy. The average American doesn't know anything about Canada. So that's that's their talk. They focused on Houthis a little bit more than Canada, but let's hear the comments afterwards. Bonjour. Nice touch on the Maple Leaf on the podium. Did the Canadians have to bring it themselves, or does the US supply it? Of course. What will the premiere say? This is a very nothing speech. Come on, Carney, say something with a little more substance. Yes. Like, very nice. He's clearly got some stronger thoughts. Doesn't mean it'll be successful. Yeah, it was very light. Absolutely. It'll be more than months. Months before they talk seriously. This is so vague. They they're not into any details. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Good. Yes, please leave with anything tangible. No, about the Vatican. Yeah, that's a Pope reference. Yeah, it's a Vatican Pope reference. Uh, an interesting reference for Carney to make, considering Trump's recent Pope post. So Carney is from Alberta. Stephen Harper was from Alberta before Trudeau, and the current opposition leader, Poilievre lost the election. The interim leader is Andrew Scheer again. Andrew Scheer was the conservative leader from 2017 to 2020. He's back at least temporarily. He's representing Regina anyway. Um, the idea that conservatives don't, that people in the West get no representation It's very silly. It's clearly not true. Good. Yeah, very aggressive language. It's a nonsense answer. Okay. He's just hoping that Trump stops. All right. That's true. That seems like the answer was largely directed towards the US public and not really for Canada. That was CBC, Canada's state news agency, asking the question about fentanyl in the border. And well, there was never very much fentanyl crossing the border from Canada to the States anyway. Carney has said that there's been numerous security upgrades, and it's a result of a 90% decrease in those illegal activities in that trade. So we've gone from almost no fentanyl to even more or even less, almost no fentanyl. So that question doesn't it's odd. It was asked by CBC to the Canadian Prime Minister, but the answer seemed to be for the US public because Canadians already know that fentanyl isn't going from Canada to the States, that it's not in any quantities that are significant. Absolutely, yes. Yep, that's huge. So Trump can't use that as a reason anymore for Canadian tariffs. Okay, here's a question. So, if Canada increases border security, decreasing fentanyl is, as he mentioned, it's Carney mentioned it's insignificant, right? It's less than 1%, and then they reduced it by 90% of that. So it's going to be a fraction of a percent. But handguns from the states coming across is another matter. And Carney and the Liberals have talked about looking at gun laws again, and the gun bans in Canada have been very contentious. Lots of farmers are angry that the rifles they've used on their farms forever, the rifles they've used to go hunting, are all of a sudden illegal and making these farmers criminals unless they hand their guns over. Well, it's that's I mean, why? It's a useful tool. So if the handguns from the states, if that's decreased, perhaps here's an idea. Perhaps the liberals don't need to look at the gun legislation because making more hunting rifles illegal, that does nothing when the crimes are committed with US handguns. I would hope the liberals don't touch the gun laws. Of course. And he did in the meeting. Yeah, good. Yeah, he doesn't need to repeat verbatim word for word. Yeah, Carney has been very consistent that Canada is not for sale. It's not gonna be the 51st state. Trump is all over the place. He's claiming that Canada is a friend, but he's also saying Canada needs to be taken over. He's saying Canada should be the 51st state, but that we should negotiate trade. Why would we need to negotiate trade if it's going to be the 51st state? Like, Trump's position is very inconsistent. Carney is consistent, at least in this regard. Because it isn't useful. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, They haven't been trustworthy, they've been backing out of deals and breaking drills. Gotta name them all. Don't wanna exclude them. Don't make JD Vance feel unloved. So that the deal can't be broken. And he's out. And I gotta look up. It's been all over the place. It's didn't see it in the White House's video, but Carney never, never. No. Well, he's all over the place. Here we go. Nice and quick. 8 seconds. It's probably gonna have 30 seconds of ads. There we go. One more time. Uh, he's playing around a bit. That's hard to do with Trump, who's serious and threatening and always trying to intimidate people. And so there we go. A few positives about Carney. He's to the point. He's able to have a bit of fun, make light of the situation. But yeah, we certainly can't expect any real answers from this White House meeting today. But it's a lot better than them just talking over Twitter and Truth Social about 51st state nonsense. So they've met, they've been happy. At least in this meeting, they appear to be on friendly relations. And JD Vance was calm and didn't speak. And that's probably better for international relations. So what are some questions? What do we still want to know? Like, I mean, the timeline, the timeline is going to be years. The first US in Trump's other term in 2016, that USMCA, that the replacement for NAFTA, that took years of negotiation. So yes, negotiating another one will take a long time. But if it's supposed to expire in 2026, well, then there's time. There's at least a year now to start, and hopefully they do. Question is, what's Trump's real position? What does Trump really want? What does Trump really want from Canada? Because he's not making a whole lot of sense, right? He's saying, "Let's trade, let's make a deal. We can drop the tariffs, things can be good." But he's also saying, "I just want your country." So, but you don't need to make a deal if you have the whole country. So, what does he really want? What did he talk about in the meeting? He talked about China, he talked about Houthis that had nothing to do with Canada. He mentioned cars dropping tariffs on vehicles. So and he needs to educate himself on how the automotive sector works in Michigan and Ontario anyway. It's very difficult to tell, but if anybody knows, hey, oh, hello. See, Corvo Bianco Nero has joined the chat and says hello. But send me a message. Let me know. Talk about this. What does Trump really want? Because underneath all of his contradictions, there has to be something he actually wants, other than us just guessing, right? We could say maybe it's Canada's minerals, right? The different metals, any kind of rare metals. Maybe it's potash from Saskatchewan. Maybe Trump wants the fresh water. He likes to bash Gavin Newsom in California. Yeah, he talked about that too, about the trade. But California needs Canada's water and imports tons of fresh water from BC. So what does Trump really want? Carney just seems to be trying to skate through these meetings without rocking the boat, making any trouble. So we'll see where this goes from here. But Carney seemed to get through the meeting and make Trump smile. I mean, the end of it is it's interesting, right? White House Twitter, and they're all smiles. Well, aside from their own internal nonsense, but when you get down to the Canada, it's smiles. They're happy. There we go. They're just friendly. So thanks for joining me to talk about Canada news. To check this out, want to do this again tomorrow morning. We'll be back at 9.